Vous écoutez toujours Discussion & Co sur choc.ca. Sacrée émission aujourd'hui. Je soupçonne que l'automne fait ses ravages. Maintenant que Jérôme Pruneau a décédé virtuellement, nous avons le pouvoir de faire naître des chroniqueurs à Discussion & Co. Et nous accueillons et nous sommes hyper heureux d'accueillir une nouvelle chroniqueuse, Bettina Szabo. Merci. Thank you. Hi. Bonjour d'être avec nous aujourd'hui. Bettina, est-ce qu'on peut entendre ta belle voix? Bonjour Bettina.
Bonjour. Merci de l'invitation. Hello,
c'est un plaisir. Alors, juste pour vous expliquer, pour élargir l'auditoire et ouvrir les horizons et comprendre la complexité des réalités montréalaises, Discussion & Co vous propose une chronique anglophone qui aborde des sujets que les chroniqueurs ont envie d'aborder. Et aujourd'hui, c'est Bettina qui a répondu présente. Bettina est interprète et chorégraphe établie à Montréal depuis 2007, si je me trompe pas, Bettina. Et je sais que tu as une sacrée thématique à aborder aujourd'hui. On te laisse liberté d'expression et elle t'appartient. So this is your time, Bettina.
Okay, thank you. Hi everybody, I'm very happy to be here. I'll be talking about a subject that's been on my table for a good 5 months now. I'm a member of the SIVE, which is a committee from the RQD that is working with systemic racism. And lately with my peers we've been talking about white fragility. And I wanted to share with you some great things that I learned lately with from a text from Robin DiAngelo. I think that it's important, first of all, to clarify that this text is written within the North American environment. So each time that I say race of people of color, when it comes to Canada, I think we just have to think of racialized people, people from minorities, from different cultures or religions, and also like disadvantaged groups like LGBTQ, or even handicap. So what is white fragility? White fragility is a phenomenon that is generated in an environment that isolates white people from racial stress, which builds white expectations for racial comfort, while also... Sorry, I don't understand my writing. Yeah, we're also in making their ability to tolerate racial stress much lesser. So when you're part of a majority, normally you're the norm. So you don't get questioned on your looks or how you walk, how you express, on what's your environment. Regarding this text, there's 7 factors that Robin DiAngelo highlights, and I wanted to share them with you, because I find that these factors apply not only to white fragility, but to many other situations whenever there's a majority. So like I find that sometimes we could even change this for male fragility. We can change it. I think that the concept can really get abstracted and applied to different areas. And at the end, I'm going to share some questions that I have that are more related to art. So the first factor is segregation. Even if whites live in close proximity to people of color, segregation occurs in multiple levels. It happens in school, in workplaces, neighborhoods, media images, and historical perspective. So without realizing, like many times a good school is considered to be good because it's majorly because most of the people that go there are whites or belong to the norm of the space. So if we talk to in Montreal, depending on which side of if we're in Montreal, east or west, is if they speak more French or more English, that would be an example. Another factor is universalism and individualism. This one was a hard one for me to word better than Robin DiAngelo, so I'm going to be citing a lot. Okay. So whites are taught to see their own perspectives as objective and as representative of reality. They believe in objectivity combined with a positioning of them dissociated of their own culture allows them to view themselves as the universal human. So all this idea we have about scientific research or even like scholar research makes whatever, like all the white knowledge to be considered neutral, but it's not. And that's a problem because when we talk about like their own culture or their history, like white people are often isolated from what other whites have done in history, whereas that doesn't happen to people that are racialized or people of color. So it makes it impossible for them to think about whiteness as an identity or as a state of being versus racialized people that would always be named with a racialized adjective: Black people, Asian people, Latino, etc. The discourse of universalism functions similarly to the one of individualism. It declares that we all have to see each other as human beings, therefore that we're all the same. The problem with this is that when we apply it to racism, universalism functions to deny the significance and difference of race and the advantages that whites have, overlooking the different realities that people of color have, assuming that opportunities are even for everyone, therefore denying the white privilege. Sorry, I thought, Maud, you had a question.
No, I'm watching.
Then there's the concept of individual. Whites are taught to see themselves and each other as individuals rather than as a part of a racialized group. This hides the history and the privilege, allowing them to see themselves as unique and original. They have no history behind them. There's no colonization. There's no imperialism. There's nothing like that because they didn't do it. They're unique. They're the first one to be that way. Therefore, there gets distance from actions of the racial group. And when we talk about this stuff, they often react defensively because other whites get accused as a group. Therefore, they defend themselves, arguing that their individuality, them not being the colonizers a long time ago, and etc. But the thing is that they're not acknowledging how this has facilitated the reality today. This discourse gets used, like these two discourses get used interchangeably. We're all unique when we talk about colonization, and we're all the same when we talk about color and race, which, of course, they change of the circumstances, who is talking to, or what are we talking about. Then we have the entitlement to racial comfort. Being in the dominant position, whites are almost always racially comfortable and expect to remain so. They have not built any tolerance to racial discomforts. Sensing that something is not normal, whites often then blame the source of discomfort, the racialized person, or in this case, for example, today is me. So the reaction could be penalizing this person either by some retaliation, isolation, or ostracization, and refuse to continue in the engagement of discussion, which is often what happens when we talk about racism. It's like just people walk away or they get silent and they don't invite you to the next party. Racial arrogance Ideological racism includes strong positive images of the white as well as a strong negative of the racial others. This engenders a self-perpetuation sense of entitlement because whites believe their status is a result of their own work and ignore their white privilege, which is still related to everything we have said before. And then we have the racial belonging and representation. White people enjoy and deeply internalized and mostly unconscious a sense of racial belonging, white representativity being largely the norm. So, like when we watch TV, the standards of beauty, of body, role models, heroes, politicians, etc., they're normally white. They're represented everywhere. And then when this is challenged, they get very uncomfortable. These representations gives the idea that whites are more important in a dominant society, and the interruption of this racial belonging is rare and thus very destabilizing and frightening to whites. A very clear example, I think, is like the election, like with the recent elections, and some color people being represented in our streets, and the reaction of people, or even. So, yeah, I think we need to talk about this uncomfortable stuff. And finally, the psychic freedom. Because race is constructed and is residing mostly in people of colors, whites don't navigate society with the social burden of race. Thanks to their individuality, Their behavior doesn't represent all whites. They're just original and special. However, racist people don't get the luxury and have the extra psychic burden of knowing that their behavior may be taken as a reflection of their ethnic group. For example, me being a Latina and outspoken and now saying all of this stuff, so maybe that's what all Latinos do. So the biggest problem that we have is that white fragility is a reality, but we're not conscious about it. I myself am a Latina, but I'm also white. And I am an immigrant here. And I definitely can identify with white fragility at the beginning of my life until I moved to Canada, and then I became a minority. I think that it's not a matter of guilt. It's just a matter of becoming conscious about this, questioning it, and realize how we can change in our own behavior this reality. So thinking about white fragility made me demand myself, how does this affect the world of art, specifically of dance? So I have a couple of questions that I just want to throw there, and you think about it. What about the dances of First Nations or folkloric dances versus the so-called dance of research? Do we have an artistic fragility? Or why is there a hierarchy of aesthetics in the world of dance? How much stamina do we have to work and appreciate work of different able bodies? What is the benefit that this isolation and segregation of styles gives, and who does it benefit? How familiar are we with the paradigms of First Nations dances or the battle environment of break or cramp, for example? Is the subvention system adapted to their needs? Mm-hmm. And the dance service institutions? And that's it.
Bettina, merci, thank you very much.
Thank you, Maud.
On invite vraiment la chronique à ouvrir les esprits. Si vous avez envie de rebondir, vous êtes les bienvenus à rebondir sur vos plateformes personnelles. Mais c'est vraiment des graines qu'on souhaite semer. Merci Bettina d'avoir ouvert ce discours et cette réflexion. C'est très apprécié et on a hâte de te retrouver dans les prochaines semaines. À dans